folks. Welcome in another version of Seven Rivers Racing here in KQEG TV. I'm Dan Dyker along with Al Losi, and it was interesting when I went out Saturday to the racetrack. There was rain showers to the south of us, and I kept watching and watching and watching. I know Chuck Deary on the Deary Doppler radar is watching as well, but I went out to the track at Crosse Speedway, got there about 3:30, put a picture up on Facebook, said it's partly sunny and 74. The majority of the comments were, what track are you at?
It was so beautiful out there. It was warm enough to wear shorts, cool enough to not sweat. It was just beautiful out there.
Well, even when the sun went down and we started getting into towards the features, it was still in the about 63, 64 degree range.
It was so comfortable.
But there was no wind, so it made it really, really nice for the race fans we had at the Speedway.
Oh, it was. And you know, a cold drink felt so good when we went to bed the night before. We thought coffee was going to be what we needed.
Right.
But we sure didn't. The cold drinks were so good out there.
Well, the racing action started heating up in week number 2 at the La Crosse Speedway. We're going to start from top to bottom and to start things off with the La Crosse late models. And you know, I blog on AM 580 WKTY's website. It's 580WKTY.com. That's where you can find out more information on my radio show too as well. That, you know, Steve Carlson has won so many races over his career that I wonder if newspaper writers just save those stories and just edit certain things up and leave the rest, because
Change the
did
date.
it in dominance again.
Yeah, they probably just changed the date at the top of the sheet there. When you're watching him, we go out and watch the races. Jay Herbst is really good. Brent Kirchner, Paff, and all of the drivers out there are just so good, but he's been doing it for so long at such a high level.
Well, you see here, Carlson was kind of mid-pack for quite a while till the pack started to break out. Bill Doc Niles led this race for the first 13 laps, and then once things started to separate, some of the bigger horsepower cars came up, and as you saw right there, it was Steve Carlson and Jay Herbst going right down towards the end. Adam Degenhardt getting a top 3 finish. Ty Majeski also a 4th place finish. You know, Ty Majeski is going to be, if he runs full-time at La Crosse, a young man to reckon with. 18 years old, comes out of Seymour. First race 2 weeks ago, he makes the 6-for-6 dash. That's not easy to do. That's the top 6 fastest late models coming out of qualifying. This past weekend, he not only has a 4th place finish in the feature, but he picks up the quick time qualification over Steve Carlson. What do you know about this young man?
Actually, I know he's from Seymour, Wisconsin.
And he runs at Kaukauna.
Yeah, and Kaukauna, there is another tough track. When people come out to La Crosse for the very first time, La Crosse is a tough track. It's a bigger track than most tracks around here. Both corners are completely different and more of an egg-shaped. Right. And if he races at Kaukauna, that's got 3 corners, a little bit more like Darlington. So if he can set his car up, and he's used to racing there, I can see why that may translate a little bit to La Crosse. But still, La Crosse is a tough track to learn.
Well, he also won the short track nationals in Chicago, or in Rockford a couple of years ago, and he also comes off the Big 8 series. So that number 91 late model, he is going to be one to watch here, and we're going to try to fandangle him out of the program here in the next couple of weeks. Brent Kirchner won the heat race, 6-for-6 dash, went to Mr. Consistent Todd Korish. And again, in time trials, it was Ty Majeski on top of the heat. Going to the sportsman, this was kind of an interesting one as well, as the top 2 cars kept side by side pretty much for the, I would say, to the halfway mark, and then they started to break apart. Some single file racing was going on, and then Brian Hesselberg, I call him the grape ape. His car looks like a big grape with the black and the purple this year. And Hesselberg finally got some clean air and did away with the challenges, and he was off to the races. Yeah, once he got past the first 2 cars, he just took off. He was pulling probably 2 car lengths a lap and just kept stretching it out. Now, Brian Hesselberg finished the race, followed by bright orange Jake Arneson, Jimmy Gilster, Jamie Dummer, and Steve Bachman rounding out the top 5. Heat races went to Jimmy Crackcorn Gilster. Greg Scheck, it was his birthday, just couldn't get it done. He had a top 10 finish and qualified second. Time trials, Steve Bachman picking up again where he left off last year. You got to watch Bachman this year as well. Last year he finished the season qualifying fastest 4 of the last 5 weeks. He comes out this year, he picks up a feature win. He also picks up a dash win this past weekend, fastest 14 was out there, and a lot to say about Bachman.
He's one of that group of people in the Sportsman and the late models who are young drivers who actually have veteran experience. He's been out there now a number of years,
right,
and he has made some mistakes, but he has definitely learned from them and become a very good driver.
Again, two of the youngsters right off the bat, Ty Majeski, Steve Bachman, in two separate classes. You're going to want to watch those two this year. To the Thunderstocks, this was like an 18-round boxing match with all the damage and the punching and the trading of paint and the rubbing. And, man, it took forever to get this one done. I think we went through about 5 cautions. I feel so bad for Mark Chalet. He led this thing from the pole all the way through other cautions until the last 2 laps.
It was just so exciting to watch. All of us that are in the late model and sportsman division love coming out and watching this feature, and it was a pound fest.
Well, Jordan Myers finally found an inside groove on that action track quarter mile. And as you see right here, Mark Chalet, I don't know if his fingers got too white from knuckling that steering wheel, but this was a close one all the way down to the very end with Moore right behind, and Myers beats him to the line. And Jordan picks up the win. The dash, Adam Moore wins the dash. Adam Moore wins the heat. And Brad Worthen won heat number 2. And again, you get the Moores back on that Thunderstock track. Either it's Andy or Adam, and they are both ones that are on the top of the list.
There again, they've just got so much experience. Their cars have been set up for so long to run that track that they are just that good.
Well, we had the Outlaws come out for the first time this year. Kind of a different mix of cars. Cole Shozy brought his late model out. Later in the race, he got it wrapped back like a sardine, ended up injuring a hand, and we're going to try to find out more on the extent of that. But Jared Logging came out and decided this was going to be his weekend. He ran a Sportsman. He said he may run a car in an Outlaw, and he finally caught up with the late model of Cole Shozy and did away with the field. It was Logging at the end. Jared Logging cruising away with the win. Jason Bolster, Steve Roosh, Tom Lethe, and Cole Shozy rounded up the top 5. Cole Shozy in his late model won the heat race, and Jared Logging qualified fastest. So I would expect to see, from what I'm hearing through the rumor mill, some different cars from some very familiar names coming out in that Outlaw class in the next couple of months.
Yes, there was a notable name missing from that race.
Jerry Ellsworth, last year's track champion. And now the rule doesn't apply for the Outlaws. If you win a late model or a Sportsman, a Thunderstock championship, you have to sit out the next year or run a different class. Not the same for the Outlaws, and wouldn't be surprised to see the Alsmatron coming back out here in the next couple of weeks. When we return, we're going to bring in a driver that was synonymous with the Crosse Speedway all the way back to the early 90s. He's going to take a year off this year and run with the Arca Series Truck Series. Joe Rinartz, Mr. Fluffy, is going to join us here on Seven Rivers Racing on KQEG TV.
When you're all out of good ideas and you've moved on to the dumb ones, it's time. American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, a higher standard of comfort.
May I take your order?
Be not defeated by indecision. Choose the path that leads to a better day. Choose the way of the meal.
Make it a meal with one of Cousin Sub's new pork subs, the Memphis steak or the Cubano for a limited time only.
The key to happiness is sharing.
Oh.
Cousin Subs. Better bread, better subs, better day.
Did you know that the Holman American Legion is open to the public? That's right, 7 days a week you can enjoy the full-service bar while watching your favorite sports team or NASCAR driver. You don't need to be a member to enjoy the Holman American Legion's rotating lunch special every Tuesday for only $6. A banquet hall with seating up to 250 people is also available for weddings, birthdays, or any other special event. See you at the Holman American Legion, 419 First Avenue West in Holman.
Get ready for the thunder! The Mississippi Thunder Speedway,
your Friday night racing destination.
Racing starts at 7. Super stocks,
Modified,
600 mods,
pure stocks,
street stocks.
Levi.
It's racing excitement, dirt track style.
Tickets $12 for adults,
$5 18 and under,
$8 for students, or our family pack.
$25 for 2 adults and 3 kids 18 and under.
Friday night racing starts at 7.
Bring on the fun.
Dirt track style at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Highway 35, just north of Fountain City.
Welcome back, Seven Rivers Racing on KQEG TV. I'm Dan Dyke along with Al Losey. A couple of weeks in the books throughout western Wisconsin here. Just got off the heels of the Joe Shear Classic down in Madison. What a fantastic race that was. I was on the way last year to go to the Joe Shear Classic. It started raining about halfway there, and I started seeing super late models and cars coming the opposite way on the interstate, so I figured it was going to be a rain date, and ended up spending the weekend with the folks. But a great time down there in Madison. That was, as a matter of fact, the first time I've ever been to Oregon, Wisconsin, even though I lived in Sun Prairie.
Sure.
First time I've ever been to that racetrack.
Yeah, I've never been there either, but man, the things that I have heard from that racetrack are really awesome. I'd love to get over there one of these days.
Also, something I got to add here before we bring our guest in. You know, last year I went to the Milwaukee Mile Race.
Yes.
Hitched a ride with Brent Kirshner down there. Todd Korsh was in it in his sportsman car. This year, I got to meet a couple of younger, up-and-coming drivers that you're going to be seeing here. One was young Mr. Nemechek, was about 13, 14 years old, stood about this high.
Yep. All the Nemecheks stand about that.
Well, we're gonna see how they stack up because Dad Joe is racing against his son.
That'll be good.
In the big race at the Milwaukee Mile, and you talk about some of the NASCAR names that have come out, former and present. That race with the Arca Series, that thing's really starting to get huge.
Yeah, and it's always so special when a father can race against their son or an uncle against a nephew. I know that the Nemecheks, I've met them. The mother is just so involved in racing in a big way, and it's kind of nice to see how the Nemecheks carried that family tradition through the generations, especially after John had his accident.
Now, Joe was hanging out in the pits last year, and I think he was chomping at the bit to say, I can run this racetrack. So make sure you just Google the Arca Series, and you can find out more information on that big race coming up here in July. Our guests in the program today, you know, usually we stray away from putting people on the show that don't really have a local connection because nobody really cares. Sure. But the gentleman we have on today still has a local connection, even though we're not going to see him at La Crosse this year, but he's got a darn good reason why, and that would be Joe Fluffy Rinartz joining us on the Seven Rivers Racing Show. How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
Joe is not at La Crosse this year, man. It was awfully different last year at the end of the season, and it was awfully strange the first night at La Crosse because I make my pattern of how I walk around the pits. There was no King Street Kitchen 65. That whole area by you was completely empty, but you got a good reason this year.
Yeah, I got a good reason. I mean, you know, I went the first night up here, and it was awful strange me standing up there and watch these cars go. I had the itch, but, I mean, the opportunity to come to run an Arca Truck Series, Travel Midwest Series, and I took it, and it's going to be fun this year.
Now, you got your feet wet a couple of races last year and really kind of shook some of the old-timers up, I understand.
Yeah, we started in Wausau, and we ran the 50-lap feature. We got 10th in that 50-lap feature, and then John and Jerry Wood came up to me, and they're like, you're going to be a tough competitor. And down here at the fest, when we had the Oktoberfest race, and John and Jerry tried getting me, and he's just like, you're tough. And I'm like, you know, if you give me a vehicle I can comfortable in and drive it, I'll drive it. And I mean, for Monty Lonkinen having what he has, it's one of the oldest trucks in the fields. I mean, we did some stuff over the winter. I mean, we did some stuff that, you know, we may be able to keep up with these guys. But I talked to John and Jerry Wood down at the banquet down at the Dells, and they're like, you know, if you can get that truck lighter, you can be fast.
Now you mentioned Monty Lockington. He has been around racing for decades, and he knows how to put stuff together. We like Monty. Everybody Monty is so laid back. What a great owner to run for, because he just has that attitude of we can go fast. We just got to do the work and show up with the car ready to go.
I mean, basically, he's an awesome guy to drive for. I mean, he comes out and he just tells me the way it is. He says it's all in your book right now. He said you get in the truck, you drive what you want, the way you want to drive. He's like, I'm spotting for you, and you feel comfortable, go. You know, and last year the 4 races I ran, he didn't have a problem about racing, and then I figured, you know, maybe he might want somebody else ride for him this year. But then he came to me over the winter, and he's like, you're full boat. So I took my seat out of my car and put it in the truck because it was a smaller seat. And last year was uncomfortable, but I mean, 50 laps running in a small seat compared to a big guy like I am in there. But now I got the big seat in there where I'm going to be comfortable.
And of course, for the folks that don't know, the Wood family is synonymous with not only racing trucks in the state of Wisconsin. I remember living in Sun Prairie back in the late 70s, early 80s. They were all about midget racing, and the midget racing at the Angel Park Speedway in Sun Prairie was phenomenal. And a lot of the Wood family got their roots and got their feet wet midget racing, and it's kind of neat because they went from dirt to asphalt, and they've stayed from asphalt ever since.
Yeah, I mean, if you go down to their shop down in Sun Prairie, we went down there for like a swap meet, and me and Monty pulled up and
that shop's about the size of a swap meet.
Actually, what it is barns.
Right.
And you know, you walk in like, oh, this is woods, you know, figuring all that money. Roll in and there's all their trucks in the back of the shop back there, and just, I mean, amazing for the Wood boys. I mean, I really like racing with these guys that I race with the series. I mean, you know, it's gonna be sad to see Jay Swan going to the cars this year.
Right. After his domination.
He was tough to get. He can start anywhere in the field. He's fast.
Well, no, was it last Oktoberfest or 2 years ago where he won in the truck series and in the car?
Yeah, it was last year.
That was last year. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. The Mid-Ams. Yep.
Yeah, won the Mid-Am champion, or won the Mid-Am feature last year at Oktoberfest. Hopped in the truck, did the same thing, and I mean, obviously, if you can do that, you're getting some good seat time, and you know where you're going.
Good point. Yep.
His truck was, I mean, we figured his truck was up for sale. You know, somebody's going to buy it. Well, here, John and Jerry bought it. So, you know.
Now, what is it like to run with names like that? I mean, obviously, anybody that knows the Wood family knows their name with racing in the state of Wisconsin. That's going to be kind of cool to kind of sit back and go, I'm going to race with the Wood brothers.
It is really fun, you know, and all the guys that we drive with in racing that series, I mean, they're clean. They'll give you the chance to go. If you want to go, they'll go. They're not going to come in there and be a kamikaze driver and push you out of the way, or, you know, like, you know, this is my spot. I want it. You know, they ain't going to push you. I mean, they're all, after the race is over, they'll come over and they'll talk to you. You know, they're not going to be a stranger over here and a stranger over here. They come and talk to us. I mean, I love racing that series. I mean, it's an awesome series to race with.
Well, when we come back from this break, Joe had told me a couple of things last year when he had first gotten into the truck on his driving style, and how some of the veteran truck drivers didn't really take to the way you drove, not knowing who you were or where you came from.
Right.
And some of Joe's sportsman driving styles have now transferred into an ARCA Series truck. And we're going to ask Joe when we come back from this break if those styles are still going to stay. I can pretty much answer that question right now. Joe Rinartz joins us on the program, the former 65, longtime sportsman driver at the Crosse Speedway, now advancing his career full-time this year in the ARCA Series, and you're going to see him a couple of times in this area throughout the summer. We're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. This is Seven Rivers Racing here on KQEG-TV.
Did you know that the Holman American Legion is open to the public? That's right, 7 days a week you can enjoy the full-service bar while watching your favorite sports team or NASCAR driver. You don't need to be a member to enjoy the Holman American Legion's rotating lunch special every Tuesday for only $6. A banquet hall with seating up to 250 people is also available for weddings, birthdays, or any other special event. See you at the Holman American Legion, 419 First Avenue West in Holman.
Get ready for the Thunder! The Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Your Friday night racing destination.
Racing starts at 7. Super stocks.
Modified.
600 mods.
Pure stocks.
Street stocks.
Viva.
It's racing excitement, dirt track style.
Tickets $12 for adults.
$5, 18 and under.
$8 for students. Or our family pack.
$25 for 2 adults and 3 kids, 18 and under.
Friday night racing starts at 7.
Bring on the Thunder!
Dirt track style at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Highway 35 just north of Fountain City.
May I take your order?
Be not defeated by indecision. Choose the path that leads to a better day. Choose the way of the meal.
Make it a meal with one of Cousin Sub's new pork subs, the Memphis steak, or the Cubano for a limited time only.
The key to happiness is sharing.
Oh.
Cousin Subs. Better bread, better subs, better day.
We are back, Seven Rivers Racing here in KQEG-TV. Along with Al Ossie, I'm Dan Dyker. Our guest, Longtime sportsman driver of the Crosse Speedway, Joe Fluffy Rinartz, used to power that yellow and black sportsman at La Crosse. This year, you'll see him at La Crosse maybe 1 or 2 times, but you're not going to see him in the sportsman. You're going to see him in the Arca Series Truck Series. That's going to be in the area. I think you're on the schedule twice at Toma this year, and then we'll see you back maybe Oktoberfest.
We're 4 times at Toma.
4 times at Toma this year.
Like our first one's May 17th at Toma, and then we go to Madison. Then we come back and we go to the Milwaukee Mile, and then we go to Marshfield.
Now, have you raced Milwaukee Mile?
No, I never raced Milwaukee Mile.
I told Joe, I think it was during 2 weeks ago, when we had our first night at La Crosse, that where I was standing on pit road, I really got a good feeling of what those trucks can do. Because if you get a chance to go and get on pit road, stand somewhere about midway on that racetrack on the front straightaway as they come out of turn 4, 3 and 4 wide. Just the speeds that those trucks were getting was just phenomenal.
Yeah, the speeds in the trucks, I mean, if you put the trucks up against late models out here, the late models won't be able to touch us. I mean, we got aluminum heads, and we got 4 barrels, and we got aluminum intakes. You know, we have actually a crate motor. It's bigger than what the La Crosse has out here.
Right.
A good person to talk to about setups is Cole Holland. He led a lot of laps out there.
Yep.
I'm going to say 4 years ago.
Yep.
I believe he was 14 or 15 or so.
About 4
and he did a tremendous job. I think he led probably a good 12 or 14 laps
See,
out
where
there.
Cole got that from is from Tom McClintock when Tom ran the series. You know, Tom won the championship, and Tom gave him all the little jacks. Now Tom's giving me all the little stuff that I mean switch around because his crew chief Dave, he told me a bunch of stuff to change too. So
it's the little secrets.
Yeah, there's little secrets we did some changing.
Now, Joe and I had a conversation last year after you had ran, I think it was your first or second race, and we were talking at La Crosse Speedway about how the adjustments were. There was a driving style that you were doing, that you were used to doing in a sportsman, that they didn't take particular kin to right off the bat.
No, they didn't take it really well at the time because I was running Wausau my first race, and as me being in the sportsman's, we get really, you know, when the green flag drops, it's time to go racing. It ain't time to be, you know, holding the car back and looking in your mirror and driving. Well, my point is that when the green flag drops, the cars in front of me, the trucks in front of me ain't moving. I'm going to move them somehow in some way, come around. And when I tried the 3 wide move, that is where I got yelled at. And he didn't really like the situation on about doing the 3 wide.
Joe was telling me how he was diving in on the corners, and some of the drivers looked at him like, what is that?
Yeah, they were asking me, well, John and Jerry came up to me and they said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'll tell you, I mean, it's the way my driving skill is. Well, the president of after Wausau was done, he came up and he told Monty Lackins, you got a driver on your hands. Monty just shook his head and said, yeah.
Well, you have found, though, that it's more of a marathon with this than it is a sprint.
Yeah.
And that probably did change a little bit your style.
It changed my driving a little bit, style different, but, I mean, up here at the Oktoberfest, when, you know, we had our warm-up laps, I got in trouble for that because the truck in front of me wasn't going, so that's when I shot down 3 wide on the front stretch.
Right.
Well, Monty got yelled at when he was spotting, and I also got yelled at, but the official came over me and says, you can't be doing that, you know, he calls wrecks. I said, well, for one reason, if these guys ain't going to go, it's time to warm up our tires. It's time to go racing.
Now, with that style, though, and that in mind, and being the age that you are, do you feel that you've earned the respectability of your other truck series drivers more than you would 14, 15 years old that's maybe out for maybe the first or second time? You've been a race car driver for many, many years. You have a style, and you're very aggressive. Do you think you gained some credibility with the other drivers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just watching their driving, their driving ability. I mean, I watch how they go in the corners and stuff, and I just sit and watch them guys when they're on hot lapping. You know, we're sitting in line waiting for them to go, and I learned a lot from them guys, you know, over the 4 times I race. And my driving skill is a little bit different now because I'm in a truck, a lot more power, bigger tires. When I first got in, I loved it when he told me to drive it. And I mean, now it's like the truck sits and then I get on it right away. I mean, I'm on wider tires, more speed, it's fast, it's fun.
Now, you also say one of the neat things you're looking forward to being on the series this year is some of the traveling you're going to get to do out of the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're going to Milwaukee Mile, and then we're going to Grundy, Illinois. And I've never ran to Grundy, Illinois and ran Milwaukee Mile, but when Ralph Catone drove for Monty, he said that Ralph did all right, but see, I'm the type of person that if my truck, like we were in Marshfield, the clutch went out of us, got hot, and Monty kept telling me, you coming in? I said, I'm not coming in unless the car's falling apart, truck's falling apart. I'm staying out here.
Right.
Well, I'm driving with a spin out. I had to start truck without a clutch. And see, that's what Monty really likes. I stayed out to the full 50 laps. I mean, I'm not going to give up. The only thing is, he was worried about me being in racing the 50 laps because I wasn't used to racing 50 lap features. And I got to it, and I got used to it. And you know, from here on, I'm excited to start the season off. Is what I am.
And you're also going to Michigan this year.
No, we were going to go to Michigan.
Okay.
But the cars and us had a meeting down at Banquet. We refused Michigan because it was not a chore. I mean, we chewed up right front tire in 25 laps.
I've heard a lot of folks say when I was talking to John and Jerry Wood at Oktoberfest last year that that's like a demon word. When you mentioned Michigan in an Arca Truck Series truck, a lot of them said it costs too much for what we have to tear up at that track, according to the payouts.
I mean, it took 6-hour drive up and 6-hour drive back. I mean, the pits layout, I mean, they had in one of the race magazines what the layout was. I mean, you got granite rocks that big in your pit area. The hauler's got to go up like this, and the trailer's all, you know, kitty-wampus.
Right.
And, I mean, you drop off on the right-hand side of the track, you're in the dirt. It's actually laying on top of a horse track.
Okay.
And so if you go by the flag man and you go off, you're going to go off the edge off the track, and it's going to be a jump, and then you got to get back on the track. The cars were up there racing like Chris Weinkauf. He said it was the cars have more problems than we were because they get 25 laps and then they got a caution. Somebody's spinning.
Right.
And the cars didn't really like it. I mean, they were destroying cars out there.
Do you feel that last year you ran a couple of truck races and you ran Oktoberfest, you were still kind of getting the shakes out? Do you feel running a full series this year that coming back to Oktoberfest is going to be like a huge homecoming for not only Joe Rinartz but the entire family? Because your family is huge, the size, and they're always at the Crosse Speedway.
Yeah, they're always at the Crosse Speedway. I mean, it's going to be hard, but like, you know, my mom and dad said, excuse me, I sold the cars, and I just wanted my mom and dad to do something to go on, and so like at Fest, it's going to be awesome to come back at Fest. I would really like to come back to the Crosse run, but, you know, see, that's the problem. Now, Jerry Wood and John Wood said, you racing Toma? And I said, yeah, I raced Toma. And they're like, you got an advantage over us. You know what Toma track looks like.
Right.
I said, yeah. I said, but, you know, it's racing's racing. I mean, I'm going to miss, you know, Swan coming in. And that guy was a fast guy. I mean, you could put him anywhere, and he was going to front.
Yeah, he put on a heck of a show at La Crosse last year. You know, you're going to get yelled at after the show airs on KQAG-TV.
Why is that?
Well, because your partner in crime, Mr. Dave.
Well, I was supposed to get him. I was supposed to get him, but I went to his house, he wasn't there, and I figured, well, you know, I feel bad about not having him with me because he'd be with me. He wanted to come really bad, and he's going to travel with us. I'll take him to Milwaukee.
Oh, that's going to be neat.
Great.
Because he's never been to Milwaukee Mile. He wants to go. He asked me that Saturday when the races were going up here, and then he wants to go, and he thought we were going to Madison this weekend for Joe Shear's Invitational. Well, we thought we weren't going to be racing, but then there was a throw-in, and our motor ain't quite done yet, so... You know, here we're going to be sitting up the Speedway again. Of
course, Dave, probably the longest standing race fan at the La Crosse Speedway. He's an honorary race fan that's been bestowed upon him, and he loves watching the show. He's out at the races every single weekend. He's been on the show here with you twice, and we'll tell you, Dave, the next time we do the show, we'll tape a picture of you right there at the end next to Joe, and he can just kind of put his arm around the picture to make sure everybody knows you're here. Before we let you go, I know it's still early in the season, but you have sponsors you can thank.
Yeah, I'd like to thank T-Flack, Bernie's Equipment. Just came aboard mine. King Sturchich came aboard finally. I had to work with them, but they came aboard. Game of Generations, I got to go talk to them. They're coming aboard. We got some few minimal sponsors coming aboard, but truck sponsors we had, you know, some of them are staying there, but some of them that I have aren't coming aboard, but some of them are coming aboard.
And then you also got to thank, I think it's Baxter Racing.
Baxter Racing Engines is building an awesome engine for us. I mean, because you can run a crate motor, but the only problem is with the motor we have to down it to a 2-barrel instead of a 4-barrel now. But when Gary builds them, he's like, no problem, we'll make it so you can stay with the 4-barral guys.
Sure. Alrighty. Well, off camera, I'm going to tone Al Losi from a 4-barrel down to a 2-barrel.
Oh, boy.
As well. That's going to do it for the program. I'd like to thank a good friend of mine, Joe Rinartz. I've been a friend at the Speedway and a friend of the show ever since we got it on the air. And a good guy. I tell you, his entire family, you can find him anywhere at the racetrack. One of the biggest probably racing families we have from front to back on and off the tracks. We really appreciate Joe coming in, and good luck and some good success this summer.
Oh yeah, we're gonna try a bit better. I mean, we finished 7th last year in points out of 29 trucks, so that was impressive. Monty was impressive. 7th place the points. I mean, I wasn't expecting to get that far up.
And that was
we stayed in the top 10 every feature run that we ran, and you know, like he says, you stay competitive, stay out there, you can get it. And I was amazed.
Well, you'll see Joe Toma 4 times this year, and of course, you'll see him back the big homecoming at Oktoberfest. For Joe Rinartz, now Losi, I'm Dan Dyker. Join me Saturday, WKTY, that's AM 580, the race report from 1 until 2. We're going to get Joe on that program as well and go a little bit more in-depth on the racing program. Are we doing the question thing this year, by the way?
We can.
We'll have details next week on that, because that was really interesting. Some of the people we had that were running in questions.
Right.
We'll get that up and running next week. Check us out on Facebook, Seven Rivers Racing. That'll do it for the show. For Joe and Al, I'm Dan Dyker. Thanks for joining us. This is KQEG TV.